It talks about looking towards the things that are good and not focusing on the bad things. You know, it's so easy for us to focus on the bad that we see around us and go, wow, look what they're doing. Oh, look what they're doing. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. When really, it's me. I'm supposed to be looking at what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be paying attention to what I'm doing. So let me read that verse. Amen. Philippians 4:8. It says, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are lovely, are of good report. If there is any virtue in anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. We're supposed to focus on the good. We're supposed to focus on the things that are from God.
All right.
Not the things that are tearing us down, that are destroying us. We got to get away from those things.
That's right.
And not get caught up in them. You know, I find it kind of funny as well. Carl was talking about that. Walking away, you know, just losing your focus. We have to think about God and grow that relationship.
That's right.
Our relationship with God. Because my relationship is personal. My relationship is not yours and yours is not mine.
Amen.
That's something I had to learn when my father passed away. Because I love my dad dearly. But I was riding my dad's coattails to heaven, I thought. My dad was a good man. And I thought, wow, I'm just going to ride his coattails to heaven. Wrong. Wrong. That wasn't my path. That wasn't my relationship. Amen. He was showing me how I needed to act, but I needed to grow my own relationship with Jesus. And this passage that I want to read tonight is Daniel 3. Because Daniel 3, these guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were amazing. They didn't focus on the bad things. They focused on Jesus. They were focused on their God. And their God in a land of sin. Because Babylon was a land of sin. They immediately, when they were brought into the castle, Daniel along with them, these guys were made into eunuchs. These were young men, and they were never allowed to be men. They were made into eunuchs because the king didn't allow anybody else to have children in his household. These guys, they didn't focus on the bad thing and say, oh, it's terrible, my whole life is gone. They worship God.
Amen.
Let's go to this Daniel 3, this chapter of Daniel 3, verses 1 through 28. And I'm just going to read through this. I love the book of Daniel. I'll just come right out and say it, because the book of Daniel is, Hollywood has no idea how to write stories like this. This is truth.
Woo!
This is truth. And they can't even come close to this kind of relationship. It's amazing. Okay, Daniel 3. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and its width 6 cubits. That's a pretty huge statue. 60 cubits, 90 feet high, probably 8 or 9, 10 feet wide. There's a lot of gold in that statue. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon, and King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. He was pretty proud of himself. This was the God that he was going to have everybody worship. Everyone was going to be patting him on the back and telling him what a good job he did, making this image of gold. So the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered together for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, you it is commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages. The kingdom of Babylon was a huge kingdom. It stretched all the way to India, all the way to Ethiopia. It was a huge kingdom. And he had representatives from all of those places there in his kingdom. That at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. This was a huge production. He wanted everybody to see what he had made. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. So at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and lyre, in symphony with all kinds of music, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Everybody knelt down to this thing, but there were three standing there. Verse 8. Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery, in symphony with all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the gold image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. All along the way he's going, yes, 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 yes. There are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They broke your rules. They didn't listen. They do not serve your gods or worship the gold image which you have set up. His grand production was spoiled by these three. They stood there, they said, we're not bowing down to this. Verse 13, Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke to them. Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up? So he asks them, he wants to know from their lips, is it true? And he gives them a chance. He says, now, if you are ready, at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? Only the one true living God. Nebuchadnezzar didn't realize this yet. He didn't see it like they saw it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. Whoa. They just told the king off. They said, we're not even going to give you an answer here because our God, he is going to save us. Verse 17, it says, if this is the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. They told him, no way. We're not bowing down to your God. We're not going to defile ourselves with what you're worshiping. We're not going to do it. They didn't even have to fight over it. All they had to do was say, no, we're not doing it. They were focused on God, not the king that could kill them. But God is so much more powerful than that.
Right.
God can destroy our soul. That's what it says. It says, don't fear man who can kill you.
Come on.
Fear the one who can destroy your soul. And that's God. God is so much higher than anything on this earth. Anything that anybody could put before you. So he gets upset. It says, then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. So he got some big guys and he said, get over here, throw them in. Bind them up and throw them in. Then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those men who were mighty men of valor from his army, it killed them. And those guys were battle-tested guys. It killed them. And they took these 3 and put them in the furnace, and these guys died. That's how hot it was. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound, in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, did we not cast 3 men into this fiery furnace, the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, true, O king. Look, he answered, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. They were protected in the midst of that fire that killed those 2 men, or the men that actually grabbed them and threw them in it. They were protected.